Hi guys, how you doing? Right, this video is with regards I put a comment on Facebook yesterday, I believe it was, and it was in relation to the BBC and whether I think the question was, do you think the BBC is worth the licence fee? Because personally I would pay the licence fee for Radio 5 Live and BBC Radio Scotland, just for the radio service, and Radio 4 actually, and Radio 2. So just for the radio service alone, I feel that I personally get good value for my licence fee. And someone had made comment about they felt that I think it was Mick on Facebook had made comment that he felt in fact, hang on a wee second, I'll go and get my phone just so as I've got the comment in front of me. Just give me a second. Sorry about that. Right, okay. So my question was, do you reckon the licence fee is value for money? Scott Murray asked what the licence fee was, and I tried my best to explain. In the UK, we pay £12 approximately per month per household, and that pays for the BBC. That's how they're funded. They don't have any advertisements. When you watch the BBC television channels here or listen to the BBC radio channels, or if you go to any of the BBC websites, there is no adverts at all. They are solely funded by the British public. So, Mick had put that he didn't have a TV for a couple of years and never really missed it. Feels that the licence fee is outdated and redundant when you can get everything for free on the internet. The BBC needs to abandon the licence fee and become more competitive with other media companies rather than churning out so many repeats. And it's just his opinion, obviously. And I respect Mick's opinion, and Mel also agreed with Mick. And one of my other friends, Sharon, agreed also. But I disagree. Firstly, the fact that we have the facility online to watch BBC programmes on the iPlayer, it's not free, it's paid for by the licence payer. And the BBC iPlayer is one of the best online video players I have ever seen. You can get more or less any programme from the last 7 days and watch it online as many times as you want, or you can download the programme to your computer and you will have it for 30 days. I also have Virgin Media Television, and the BBC iPlayer is actually built in to the Virgin Media service, so I can actually watch BBC iPlayer on my television. All paid for from the licence fee. We also get BBC One, BBC Two, BBC Three, BBC Four, BBC News, CBeebies, which is a kids channel. Can't remember, there's probably more TV programmes on there. We've got the BBC Internet, BBC World Service, the BBC Internet Service, which for me is one of the best news providers on the internet. It's the first place that I would go. On the radio, we have BBC Radio 1, which is kind of aimed at the kids, if you like. That's the kind of popular channel. BBC Radio 2, which is kind of aimed more at my sort of age range upwards. BBC 3, which is kind of arts kind of stuff. Radio 4, which is more of a kind of current affairs drama type thing on the radio. BBC Radio 5, which is now called 5 Live, which is a news and current affairs channel, which is a talking channel. There isn't any music shows on there. We've got BBC Radio 6 Music, which is a more kind of cutting edge, looking at kind of new up and coming bands and things that are a bit more diverse, a bit more not mainstream. BBC Arts Channel as well we have. We've also got our regional BBC radio stations. Radio Scotland, the one I was at, there's BBC Radio Northern Ireland, BBC Radio World Service, and then you've got BBC Radio Mid, well, you've got about 4 or 5 of them down south as well. So you're getting all that is being funded for by your £12 a month. The argument about them churning out repeats, well, everyone does that. Every channel does that. But if I'm being honest, I reckon the BBC is less guilty of it than some of the other broadcasters. Most of the other broadcasters, I reckon they're less guilty of it. At least if the BBC is churning out repeats, they're churning out repeats of their own stuff. Which, and this is kind of the crux of what I'm saying. There's a couple of issues. First of all, the reason that the BBC is funded by the public and the money is guaranteed, they're not chasing ratings. They can make shows that are a bit more niche. They can make shows that aren't mainstream because they're not competing with the commercial channels. So as a result, you get lots more shows that are aimed at smaller sections of society. But also the BBC, as far as I'm concerned, with regards making programmes, make some of the greatest television in the world. And they export a lot of really good stuff. I mean, things like, the more mainstream things, like Top Gear and Doctor Who, Sherlock when it was on, there's loads of them. I should really have made a list. But lots of these programmes are sold abroad and very, very well respected, as is BBC News. I'm not saying it's the best in the world because I don't know enough about other broadcasters, but it's certainly up there. And it's certainly respected across the world. The news also is there's less of an agenda behind the news because they don't have commercial businesses propping them up. Now, when you just to put this into perspective, people seem to have an issue with the licence fee at £12 a month, but the majority now, I believe, of UK households have some other form of pay television, whether that be Sky Television, which is owned by Rupert Murdoch, or whether it be Virgin Media, which is owned by Richard Branson. And regardless of those two platforms, you would pay a hell of a lot more for them than you do for your licence fee. Now the argument would be then, if you're paying for one of those because you get the content, for example on my Virgin Media I get all my BBC content, television content, through my Virgin Media box. So there could be the fact that you're paying for it twice. And I can kind of see that. I can kind of see that argument. But your licence fee isn't only paying for the delivery of the service, it's also paying for the making of the programmes. The production cost, everything, the wages of the newscast, everything is paid for by the licence fee holder, us, the UK public. And I think it's unique. I don't think there is another broadcaster worldwide that does that. I may be wrong, bit of an informed opinion there, but so yeah. But I like the fact that the BBC aren't necessarily competing with ITV and Channel 4 and Channel 5, which is our kind of main, and Sky, which is our other kind of main commercial competitors. They're not so concerned with, certainly BBC One and Radio 1 and things like this are views and listener driven because they need to justify their existence. But when you filter that down to kind of, I mean, not even when you're talking about local news, I mean, we have BBC Radio Scotland, but we also have that itself splits into the east and the west and the north. So it's very regionalised. And you get all that for about 12 quid a month. And I think that's pretty damn good value considering the quality that you're receiving. So the reason for me bringing the topic up, and I'm not saying I'm right and someone else is wrong, and I'm not trying to start an argument by any stretch, that's my view on it. Me personally, I think it's good value. Yeah, some people will put the argument, but you don't have a choice. It's more of a tax than a fee, if you like, because anyone who has a television needs to pay that, and if you don't pay it, you'll be fined. But I think it would be a very, very, very small minority who wouldn't get value. Even if they don't have a television, they'll listen to the BBC radio, or they'll use the BBC iPlayer on the internet, or they'll use the BBC website. So I think that would be the exception rather than the rule. But I reckon the BBC, from my point of view, is well worth the 12 quid a month, and I think it's an institution for the UK to be proud of. But I would be interested in the opinions of people from out with the UK. Are you aware that this is how it was funded? What do you think of the content? Yeah, thoughts, opinions would be welcome. And yeah, I just think it's an interesting discussion, and it would be interesting because there's two guys who live in the UK, myself and Mick. He feels it's outdated and absolutely unnecessary. I feel that it's totally justified, and if anything, whilst it's maybe the institution is a little outdated, a little bit bloated with management and things like that, I think the principle of having a national media owned by the people and accountable to only the people, whilst it's it's an old institution, I don't think it's outdated. I don't think the principle is outdated in the least. But I like things like that, where you can have two completely opposite opinions of the same thing. And that's my opinion. So, yeah, your thoughts would be welcome. And I'm sorry my video has lasted almost 15 minutes again. And that's probably why hardly anyone now watches my videos, because they last far too damn long. But anyone who does get this far, stick a comment below or make a video response and let me know what you think. Anywho, I'm off, and I'll speak to you later. Peace.